After Godin's rampage in the shop, Jamina steps in to help the severely injured Vlad escape the ruins. Supporting his weight as he limps, she listens to his continuous groans of pain. His hand remains clutched over the source of his agony, and at one point, the pain becomes so intense that Vlad collapses onto one knee, unable to continue. He stays there for a moment, drenched in sweat and panting heavily, fighting to overcome the excruciating torment that courses through his body. The scene flashes back to a few moments earlier, inside the devastated shop. Vlad is curled up on the floor, resembling a child in his vulnerability. Marcella, seeing him in this state, bluntly orders him to get up. Her voice is sharp and devoid of sympathy. When he doesn't respond, she questions him harshly, asking if he wants to die. Vlad remains silent, his eyes vacant, as if he wouldn't even care if death claimed him right then. Frustrated and angered by what she perceives as cowardice, Marcella slaps him hard across the face. The impact is loud, and the sting forces him to focus, though he still doesn't fully engage with her. She confronts him, demanding that he pull himself together, and then poses a rhetorical question. Does he know the difference between the privileged men who live in the city's wealthier areas and people like them, who have only known the slums? Vlad's blank stare tells her that he doesn't. Marcella, her voice edged with bitterness and urgency, explains that the difference is opportunity. Those in the affluent parts of the city can afford to fail. They can fall and get back up because they have the resources to do so. But for people like them, living in the slums, failure is a luxury they cannot afford. She gestures to the wrecked shop around them, pointing to the lifeless bodies of their comrades scattered across the floor. She asks Vlad if they could have afforded this failure, emphasizing that the destruction and death surrounding them are the results of just one misstep. Marcella's words grow even more intense as she tells Vlad that they were born into a tragic fate, one where a single failure can lead to death. There is no second chance for them, no safety net to catch them if they fall. It's a harsh reality that they must face every day. She makes it clear that Vlad cannot afford to let the rare opportunity that has presented itself slip away. As she speaks, she moves closer to him, grabbing him by the shoulders, forcing him to look at her and understand the gravity of their situation. Marcella's message is unmistakable. In their world, survival depends on seizing every chance, no matter the cost. Reflecting on Marcella's harsh words, Vlad's expression shifts to one of renewed determination. Despite the pain coursing through him, he resolves not to give up. Jamina, noticing his struggle, asks if he's all right and suggests slowing down to ease his burden. Vlad, however, refuses to entertain the idea. He insists that they must keep moving, unwilling to let his journey end here. With a look of silent resolve, he wipes the sweat from his face, preparing to stand again with Jamina's support. Every movement is taxing, sweat pouring down his face from the sheer effort, but he's determined to push forward. Their progress is suddenly interrupted by a shout. An enemy has spotted them. The man quickly alerts his comrades, gleefully announcing that he's found Jorge's little minion, the one they've been hunting. Fueled by adrenaline, Vlad forces himself to run, despite the limp that had slowed him moments before. His survival instinct kicks in, and he sprints with all his might. Jamina runs alongside him, and Vlad grabs her hand, determined not to leave her behind. He urges her to run as fast as she can, as the enemy closes in with their swords drawn. As they flee, Vlad's thoughts race. Their home, their safe haven, has been destroyed. But even though they were just two young, inexperienced birds, he knows they must now learn to soar on their own. There's no nest to return to. The urgency of their situation propels them forward, and they manage to outpace their pursuers, slipping away into the maze of alleyways. The killers, now lost and disoriented, spin in circles, trying to figure out which direction their prey escaped to. Frustration grows among them, and one curses Vlad, angrily referring to them as little rats. Another suggests they must have taken refuge in a different alley. Amidst the confusion, a commanding voice cuts through the chaos. The leader of the gang steps forward, ordering his men to search every corner. He promises a handsome reward to whoever finds Vlad. As the leader steps into the light, his face is revealed. It's the ponytailed man Vlad humiliated at the shop when Moneybug first arrived. The encounter had cost him a few teeth and a great deal of pride, and now he's burning with a desire for revenge. The humiliation he suffered fuels his rage, and he is determined to make Vlad pay for the shame he endured. The promise of a reward rekindles the men's determination, and they scatter, confident that Vlad and Jemina couldn't have gotten far. The hunt is on, and the danger they face is more palpable than ever. In their frantic escape, the pursuing thugs rush past a seemingly insignificant door, oblivious to the fact that it's unlocked. Behind this door, Vlad and Jemina are hidden in a tense silence. Vlad grips his dagger tightly, his ears straining to catch every sound as the footsteps and voices of the thugs fade into the distance. Jemina, her hands clasped over her mouth, tries to stifle the sobs threatening to escape. Vlad's mind races as he realizes that their current situation is unsustainable. It's only a matter of time before they are discovered. With this grim understanding, he turns to Jemina and quietly suggests that she should leave and find safety once the coast is clear. His voice is steady, but his eyes reveal the weight of the decision. Jemina, however, is unwilling to abandon him. She anxiously asks what he plans to do if they part ways. Vlad, his expression hardened by determination, explains that he has to find a way out on his own. He argues that splitting up is their best chance, especially with their enemies so close. Jemina, shaken by the idea, refuses to accept it. She reminds him of the promise he made to Marcella to keep her safe until they reached a secure place. Vlad, now visibly frustrated, suggests that she head to the convent before sunrise, or if not, to Harvan. Yet, despite his insistence, Jemina remains adamant, pleading not to be left alone. Vlad's patience wears thin, and in a moment of exasperation, he snaps at her, pointing out that he's in no condition to protect her right now. Jemina, taken aback by his harsh tone, is left speechless, her eyes welling up with tears. The tension between them rises, and the gravity of their situation becomes painfully clear. Suddenly, a voice calls out, demanding to know who's inside the room. Panic surges through Jemina, and she instinctively grabs a knife from the floor, ready to defend herself if it comes to that. A figure emerges from another room, holding a lamp that casts flickering shadows as he approaches. As the light reveals his face, it's clear that the man is the blacksmith from earlier, his expression stern and questioning as he recognizes Vlad. The blacksmith asks what they are doing in his home, but before Vlad can respond, Jemina, still in a state of fear, threatens him with the knife. The blacksmith, unimpressed and slightly irritated, retorts that they are the ones trespassing in his house. Unfazed by his response, Jemina continues to demand that he stay put, her voice trembling with both fear and determination. Seeing the tears in Jemina's eyes, the blacksmith softens slightly, recognizing her desperation. He tries to calm her down, reassuring her that he understands their predicament. But Jemina, still on edge, demands that he give her the sword Vlad had been eyeing earlier. Confused, the blacksmith hesitates, prompting Jemina to clarify that she's referring to the sword he had displayed outside. She insists that they won't be safe in the city without it, making it clear that she's serious. Vlad, seeing the situation escalating, tries to intervene, urging Jemina to lower the knife. But she's too frantic to listen, and instead, she yells at the blacksmith to hand over the sword. The blacksmith, now fully aware of her desperation, reflects on the harsh realities of life in the slums. He understands that survival often requires taking what one can, by any means necessary. The sight of Jemina, willing to do whatever it takes to protect Vlad, stirs memories of his own youth, when he too was driven by similar desperation. After a moment of contemplation, the blacksmith, with a heavy heart, remarks on the sadness of their situation, hinting that he might not help them after all. This response pushes Jemina over the edge. Her eyes, now gleaming with a mix of anger and madness, lock onto the blacksmith as she suddenly charges at him with the knife. Expecting to be stabbed, the blacksmith closes his eyes, bracing for the worst. Vlad, too, shouts out, fearing the worst. But instead of striking him, Jemina surprises them both by cutting off her own hair. Tears stream down her face as she offers the red strands to the blacksmith, apologizing for the inadequacy of the gesture, but promising to repay him later. Her voice quivers with desperation as she begs him to give Vlad the sword, her concern for Vlad's safety evident in every word. The blacksmith, taken aback by her self-sacrifice, stands speechless for a moment. Then, in a quiet voice, he asks Vlad if he truly intends to leave the slums. Vlad confirms, explaining that it's something he must do. The blacksmith, touched by Vlad's resolve and seeing in him the fulfillment of a dream he himself never achieved, decides to help. Though reluctant, he agrees to give them the sword, acknowledging that Vlad is about to spread his wings and leave behind the life that had trapped them both for so long. The scene unfolds with the old blacksmith hauling a creaking, rattling wooden cart, while Jemina, concealed beneath a hood, pushes from behind. The air is thick with the stench of refuse, and despite her discomfort, Jemina endures it, understanding that this is their only way out of the city. The blacksmith gruffly informs her that this route is the safest, though Jemina can't help but complain about the overpowering odor. Their escape plan is suddenly jeopardized when a group of goons appears, thugs whom the blacksmith immediately recognizes. One of the goons questions the blacksmith, curious about why he's taking out the trash so late at night. The blacksmith, seizing the opportunity, angrily berates them, cursing them for blocking the alleyways with their chaotic brawl. He loudly complains that his smithy is overflowing with garbage because he couldn't dispose of it earlier, his tone a mix of frustration and irritation. The leader of the thugs tries to calm the blacksmith down, brushing off his complaints, but then he notices the hooded figure behind the cart, growing suspicious since he knows the old man usually works alone. Still shouting and grumbling, the blacksmith quickly concocts an excuse, explaining that he was too exhausted to manage the work himself, so he paid a street kid with some bread to help. The leader isn't entirely convinced and decides to investigate further. Drawing his sword, he approaches the hooded figure, warning that he'll cut off a limb if they make any sudden moves. With a quick slice, he cuts the hood, ready to strike, but pauses when he sees the short ginger hair of a young girl. Jemina, playing her part well, feigns the mannerisms of a poor street boy just trying to earn a living. Satisfied, though still suspicious, the thug allows her to remain. Before moving on, the blacksmith asks the thugs what they're searching for. They reveal they're hunting for Jorge's blonde-haired ward, Vlad. The blacksmith scoffs, dismissing their search as pointless, and impatiently asks if they can go now. However, the leader insists they need to be sure the blacksmith isn't aiding Vlad. He orders his subordinate to search the wagon and instructs the blacksmith to move it aside, causing the old man to momentarily regret their chosen route. He realizes, though, that they had no other viable options. As the goon inspects the trash piled on the cart, he comments on the sheer amount of it. Noticing the nervous tension in both the blacksmith and Jemina, he acknowledges that it's just his job, urging them not to hold a grudge as he begins stabbing the heaps of dirt with his staff. Terror grips the blacksmith and Jemina, and beneath the layers of refuse, Vlad lies hidden, his heart pounding with fear. As the goon stabs through the dirt, he starts talking about a boat that Harvin has supposedly put out on the water, hinting that it might be there for a reason. He mentions this almost casually, as though trying to convey a hidden message. After a tense moment, the goon announces that he has settled the debt of 40 silver coins that his younger brother Ned owed. With that, he permits them to pass. It's clear that the goon was aware of Vlad's presence, but chose to let them go, out of gratitude for Vlad having helped his brother in the past. Finally, Jemina and the blacksmith reach the outskirts of the town, where the refuse is dumped into a channel leading outside the city walls. They carefully unload the cart, ensuring that Vlad, still hidden among the trash, is safely carried out with it. As they prepare to part ways, Jemina says her goodbyes, her voice tinged with a mix of relief and sorrow. The blacksmith watches her, his thoughts drifting to the star sword now in Vlad's possession. It was a weapon crafted from the blacksmith's own dreams, and its acquisition was paid for with Jemima's tears, a symbol of their shared struggle and sacrifice. The sword, once forged with dreams and bought with tears, now rests in the hands of a lone boy, destined for a world far beyond the confines of his broken past. As Vlad emerges from the dirt outside the town's walls, clutching the sword tightly, he begins to converse with the voice that has become a constant presence in his mind. With the weapon in hand, he calls out to the voice, seeking its attention. The voice responds, confirming its awareness of him. Curiosity gnaws at Vlad, prompting him to question the voice's identity. But to his surprise, the voice remains uncertain, unable to provide a clear answer about its own origin. This revelation puzzles Vlad, as the voice possesses an extensive knowledge of swords, yet lacks any understanding of itself. Despite this mystery, Vlad quickly comes to terms with the situation. He rationalizes that perhaps it's better this way, and in an unexpected show of resolve, he offers to help the voice recover its lost memories, hoping in return that the voice will aid him in his own journey. Vlad proposes a pact. He will assist the voice in rediscovering its past if it agrees to be his sword, his companion in the battles yet to come. His resolve is unshaken by the possibility that the voice could belong to something sinister, even a demon. The image of Godin, the insurmountable knight who slaughtered his friends without mercy, looms large in his mind. Vlad is already grappling with the fear that he might amount to nothing in a world so cruel and unforgiving. Sensing the depth of Vlad's determination, the voice finally decides to share something of significance. It begins to tell Vlad about the sword he now holds, hinting that there is far more to the weapon than meets the eye. This moment marks a turning point for Vlad, as he stands on the brink of a journey that will not only define his future, but also unravel the mysteries entwined with the sword and the voice that guides him.